Have you ever felt cut off from the world around you? Not just awkward at social gatherings, but truly detached, as if an invisible curtain separated you from everyone else. As if you could see details that others overlook, lies hidden under polished words, rules repeated like unquestionable truths, beliefs no one dares to challenge. Perhaps you know that strange mixture of clarity and solitude, the sharp awareness that the more you understand reality, the more you notice you're surrounded by illusions, and that most people prefer to protect them rather than watch them fall apart. Do you know why? Because genuine thinking is dangerous. I don't mean repeating strong opinions or memorizing clever quotes to sound smart. I mean the lonely and difficult act of using your own reason to dig until it hurts, to question the roots of morality, religion, politics, even the meaning of life itself. Over 2 centuries ago, Immanuel Kant wrote words that still echo today: sapere aude, dare to know, dare to use your own understanding. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But what people rarely tell you is what comes after. Because daring to know means risking everything: your peace, your relationships, your sense of belonging.
Kant described this state as living in intellectual immaturity, the condition of those who remain trapped because they fear thinking for themselves. It feels safe to let others decide what is true or false, right or wrong. But then comes Nietzsche, the sharp spirit, who cuts deeper and says the problem is not only that people prefer blindness, they also despise those who see. The free thinker is a scandal just by existing. By standing apart, they expose the cowardice of the majority, reminding them that their certainties are fragile. And for that reason, the independent mind becomes a target of resentment, the enemy of the herd. Perhaps you know what I mean. That uncomfortable silence in a group conversation when everyone seems satisfied with shallow ideas and you bite your tongue to avoid speaking your truth. Perhaps you have stayed quiet because you discovered that honesty can cost friendships, family, even your place in society. Or maybe you are simply exhausted. Exhausted from smiling when you want to scream. Exhausted from wondering if you are insane only because you notice what others pretend not to see. Let me tell you clearly, you are not insane. That anguish that eats at you is not a flaw. It is lucidity. It is the pain of someone who dared to see in a world determined to remain blind. Today we will discuss what may be the greatest tragedy of human life. Not ignorance, but the capacity for deep thought in a world that punishes, mocks, and isolates those who dare to use it. We will explore the theories of Kant, Nietzsche, and what these great philosophers reveal about the price of intellectual freedom. But I will also show you something greater, that the loneliness of reason does not have to be your prison. It can become the gateway to the only freedom that truly matters, the freedom to live as yourself, without bowing your head, without needing to fit in.
Most people believe they are free to choose, free to think, free to live their own way. But this so-called freedom is often just a comfortable illusion. Kant saw this with frightening clarity. For him, the true enemy of humanity was not ignorance, but immaturity, the state in which adults live like children, incapable of using reason without guidance. From an early age, we are trained to obey, not to question. We are handed formulas: what is right, what is wrong, what to want, whom to fear, what success means. And when we dare to ask why, society replies with silence or punishment. Independent thinking is treated as rebellion, and rebels are punished, excluded, or forced into silence. Kant said, "Dare to know." But to know is not simply to gather information. It is to find the courage to doubt everything, even yourself. It is to let go of certainties that once made you feel safe. And that terrifies most people, because it is easier to have someone else think for you. Easier to live by external rules than to carry the weight of your own responsibility. Think for a moment. How many people do you know who, though intelligent, prefer to repeat what they saw in a video, read in a book, or scrolled past on social media? How many stay silent, fearing that speaking their true thoughts would bring conflict, rejection, or lost followers? Intellectual immaturity is not stupidity. It is fear. Fear of the solitude that comes with freedom. Kant believed that only a few would have the courage to break these chains, and those who did would find themselves on uncertain ground. Familiar truths dissolve, comfort disappears, and the haunting question emerges, who am I, if not defined by the beliefs I inherited? Yet Kant also saw the possibility that if even a small number dared to use their own reason, it could light the way for others. It was a call for awakening, even if painful.
But Nietzsche exposed something darker. For him, the problem was not only fear, but active hostility. He saw that society does not merely discourage free thinkers, it resents and attacks them. For him, resentment was at the heart of morality and social order. The free thinker, simply by existing, becomes a threat. Their presence reveals the weakness of those who prefer illusions. Their calm voice saying, "What you believe is not absolute, it is just a story," is enough to provoke hatred. They become the enemy of order, a danger to peace, a disturbance that must be silenced. This resentment shows itself in mockery, exclusion, censorship, or moral outrage. Society arms itself to protect its illusions, demanding not only that you follow its rules, but that you truly believe in them. Because if one person dares to think differently, others may follow, and the entire house of cards could collapse. Perhaps you have felt this too. Maybe you have been cut off from a conversation, called arrogant or negative, simply for raising a doubt. Maybe you have noticed how quickly people unite against anyone who challenges the dominant story. Nietzsche saw this clearly. For him, the freethinker is noble, but almost always condemned to solitude. And that solitude is the heavy cost of clarity. The more you think, the more you see, and the more you see, the further you drift from the crowd. Nietzsche did not deny this suffering. He accepted it as the price of authentic freedom.
This is the loneliness I want to talk about next. A loneliness deeper than being physically alone. It is the inner isolation of those who dare to notice what others deny. Nietzsche knew this too well. He spent most of his life in brutal isolation, both physical and intellectual. Not because he rejected people, but because every truth he uncovered pushed him further away from them. The freethinker slowly enters a no-man's land where their questions are too unsettling, their doubts too heavy, their clarity mistaken for arrogance or madness. Imagine being surrounded by people content with easy answers and ready-made stories, while you see with painful precision how fragile those certainties really are. The thinker's loneliness is not just silence around them, it is the impossibility of finding an echo for their questions. That is why Nietzsche spoke of the free spirit as both liberated and condemned to misunderstanding. This loneliness brings devastating consequences. Alienation, fear of being wrong, fear of going mad, fear that clarity itself is delusion. Even when the thinker tries to stay silent and act normal, life refuses to let them. Every trivial conversation, every advertisement, every careless remark screams falsehood. The cracks are everywhere, and once you have seen them, you cannot unsee them. This is where true exile begins, not physical, but mental, living among people, yet feeling like a stranger in every conversation. Nietzsche believed that this exile, though cruel, could also be the birthplace of creation, for it is within this silence that the strongest ideas are born. It takes immense courage to endure it without breaking.
Perhaps you know this feeling.
the frustration of holding back your words to keep your relationships, the exhaustion of realizing that the more you explain yourself, the less you are understood. Yet both Kant and Nietzsche believe that free thinking does not end with pain, it opens a path to creation. For Kant, reason could build universal principles beyond dogma. For Nietzsche, there are no absolutes, only interpretations and the challenge to create new values. If God is dead, then we must invent meaning ourselves. To live without guarantees, without the comfort of inherited beliefs, is terrifying. It is like walking on a cliff's edge every day. But in this abyss lies possibility. The free thinker is not only a destroyer of illusions, but also a creator of new values, an artist of life. This is the paradox of freedom. It both elevates and wounds us. It liberates us from dogma, yet leaves us painfully alone. Society, built on fragile agreements, rejects those who break them. The free thinker becomes a stranger, speaking a language few understand. Nietzsche knew this well. He paid with loneliness, ridicule, and misunderstanding. Yet he endured, because for him, to live in illusion was worse than exile. Kant also saw the same conflict between the safety of obedience and the burden of freedom. He believed human dignity rests in living by principles chosen through one's own reason, but this means never being able to hide behind excuses again.
Perhaps you now feel this paradox inside yourself. The desire to be free and the fear of being alone. The longing to live by your truth and the cost of leaving behind the comfort of belonging. It is not an easy choice, but Nietzsche believed it was worth it, because only in freedom lies the chance for greatness, for true creation, for a genuine life. And there is something more. Even in isolation, the freethinker becomes a spark, a quiet light that proves it is possible to live differently. We have spoken of Kant urging us to dare to know, and Nietzsche warning us of the hatred awaiting those who do. But these are not just abstract theories. They're about you, about me, about all of us who refuse to live as silent sheep. The greatest tragedy of existence is not ignorance, but clarity that isolates. It is not knowing, but knowing too much. To see reality as it is often means losing the sweetness of illusions that bind people together. It means realizing that morality, law, and tradition are fragile constructs, that security itself may be nothing more than a delicate illusion. But even in this abyss, there is beauty, strength, and freedom.
Yes, free thought may cost you peace, relationships, and belonging, but it also gives you what nothing else can: the dignity of self-mastery, the courage to live by your own principles, the power to create meaning in an indifferent universe. Nietzsche taught that even without God, life can still be lived as art, each moment with honesty, intensity, and freedom. Kant taught that reason can guide us not toward easy answers, but toward integrity. Perhaps you feel this calling inside you. Perhaps you recognize the loneliness of those who see too much. But remember this: even scattered and isolated, you are not alone. There are others who also refuse to accept illusions, who also carry doubts and dreams of freedom. And every person who dares to think becomes a beacon, a small light that shows it is possible to live free. So I ask you, what frightens you more on this path of intellectual freedom? Is it the loneliness or the uncertainty of who you might become if you leave behind all you were taught? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's continue the conversation.
And don't miss the next video, because everything we have explored here is only the beginning of the journey to truly understand reality.